thing on? Can you hear me?
Or you give you a hard time for not bringing him a sausage roll when I come over. So I got him all this time and realized he's not going to be here.
Who's that? What? Where the child?
I think they're out of town because she said Crystal was covering and stuff for them.
Okay. Happens. This feels loud.
I remember October's busy for them because they've got several family birthdays.
Okay.
They ended up only losing by 6, but they were down 13. They ran the kickoff back for a touchdown, and they were right at the end of the light. And then they tried an onside kick. If you talk to some people, then the refs got it wrong, and then they should have had the ball back.
Refs didn't get it wrong. Refs rarely get it wrong. We just want a different emotional outcome.
Hey, being a Husker fan, I had a good work on it yesterday. So 56-7 is good day for us. It was. And they look, and it wasn't that they just won by a lot. They actually looked like a real football team. So it was exciting. So
Close to high school football.
we'll see if they beat Michigan next week, then we'll go
Used to it. We're in a rebuilding decade.
Oh, I know.
We're going on 15 years.
It's more than a decade because
15-year
we
decade.
played the national championship in 2002. It's about since then. Since Bill Callahan took over. Trying to be honest. I know those are like you say those names like Bill Callahan, Mike Riley. Some of those names just like caught us Nebraska fans away.
If I had hair, it'd be big.
If they'd have stuck with Bo Pelini, they probably would have been all right. But he was kind of a knucklehead off the field. So.
Yeah.
He didn't fit their mold, which I get, but they were at least winning games.
Society marches past.
Yeah. Well, and if you notice, he went to a very small college after that, and his brother and him both got in trouble for things with co-eds and drugs, and like he hasn't been able to get a big job since then. It's like there's a reason Nebraska let him walk. It wasn't like, oh, you won 9 games, you're out of here. There was more to it than just the winning on the field. So,
Because what is the purpose of football?
well,
It's not to play a game. That's not why it was invented.
no. Boy, it should be good for you. Develop lifelong skills that you can use, a character, a strength. Just like in the Army when they break them down, build them back up. And they don't ever go back. You always learn more when you're at your retirement. See, they only keep doing basic training because the people that had to go through it are like, well, I get to watch somebody else go through it.
That sounds a lot like why we hate.
Yeah, exactly. That's why when you got in college, you get in trouble for these smallest little things.
All right. Does anyone else have 9:30?
9:28.
Okay, can't start yet. I can go on.
According to the global clock, it's like
All right, I can go on time, and you can't be late, but you don't want to be early. Because then when you start heckling people for coming in, they're like, no, I'm on time. Hey, welcome. Thanks for playing. Look nice. I did. Let's hope it's streaming. If not, Monty will get a text, or I will, or there might be one other person who the ladies will just hammer. You know, I'm staring at a black screen. I'm like, did you turn the TV on? Ha ha. Yes. No. So there's always a little of that. Hey, Zeb, would you do me a favor? Go check the volume. It feels really loud. Is this loud? Thanks, but I'm loud too. But it is. Pink's a wonderful color. I learned that in jail. You don't have to go to jail. I'm giving you that knowledge. There you go. All right, everybody have a good week? Is this the beginning or the ending of the week?
first day of the week.
Is it the first day of the week? Emotionally, I always feel like Sunday's the last day of the week because it's the day in which all of my troubles from the week previously probably won't manifest, and I won't see my new problems till tomorrow when I show up at work. So emotionally, it feels like my last day of the week. You got me? All right, thanks. Okay, so welcome to the game of life. I'm sure we're all enjoying playing it. I have my game, you have yours. Let's talk about both. So, as always, the game of life is brought to you by 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. That's our goal. That's our memory verse. But as we will in most weeks, there's a little bit more to that. So this week in our discussion, I would ask you to think about Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 9. Now, Ecclesiastes chapter 11 is the end of a very long dissertation by the teacher about life. And what he closes with in chapter 11 is that life is great. You should enjoy it, particularly when you are young and able to. But never forget that all things come at a price. And what the teacher means when he says this is, be aware. At all times we may be taken from this earth, and the next thing you will know is your judgment. So be very careful with yourself and your behavior. Because what's the one fault of youth? A little bit of overexuberance, a little bit of willingness to take risk. I don't know. It's just what I saw in my youth. Yours may be different. So we're just about ready for the first roll of the game and to get on the board, so to speak. We've talked about setting up the board. We've talked about how to play on the board, who you are. But there's just one problem with that. If you look at the beginning of the board, on the board of the game of life, it starts out with the assumption that you're a full-grown person. And you're ready to make your first major life decision, right? Which is college or a career. But that's not how life works, is it? I didn't spring full-grown. I had to spend a lot of time getting ready to make my major life decisions and mess them up. And so we'll step away from the board for a moment. We'll continue to use parts of it in our discussion. But I don't think it's fair that we skip that whole big part. That happens left of making that first major decision. Are you going to have a career? Are you going to go to college? All of those things. Now, the game starts there, of course, because the game is about money. And it's about maximizing paydays. If you ever want to win in the board game of life, just maximize paydays. Count the route that has the most paydays and play that route. You'll win every time. You'll sit at the end of the mansion in the sky and you'll be like, I got the most money, I won. Just giving that away. But that's not how life works. So we start out being a teenager. I'm going to skip that that part there prior to that, because your early years, you're just really somebody's tote bag. Some of what we're going to discuss as it relates to being a teenager will relate to that earlier period. But the struggle is being a teenager, I think. It's tough, right? Was it easy for anyone? Anyone just glide through that? Because I'm going to drop this on the ground and you're going to get up here and you're going to talk your way through this. Because we all desperately need that secret. Why? Why is it tough? Some of these lessons apply to all of us. Have you ever met a full-grown teenager? Have you? You met a 40-year-old teenager? Yeah. You think being an actual teenager is tough. Be a 40-year-old teenager. It's exhausting. I met a 55-year-old teenager at my cousin's wedding just a couple of weeks ago. Just watching this guy was exhausting. I'm like, you don't have to play that hard. You don't have to. It's not worth it. I sat there and just watched, and it was tiring just watching. So, any teenagers out here? Let's say anyone 22 or under, and I'll explain why in a moment. Some of you guys, okay. We say teenager because there's those teen years, right? But if we're using the game of life as our board, then the first point at which you choose college's career is somewhere in 18 to 22. Now, if you're a man, I don't even think your brain's fully formed yet, so I'm going to go to the far right of that, and I'm going to say 22 to, let's say, 12, when some of us might start making these teenager-like decisions about our lives. So we're going to talk about that age bracket. So the first thing you need to understand as a teenager is that you don't know anything. Now, that's the wisdom of the ages. I'm sorry if that hurts. I could say this to every other age group too and start out with that slide and be absolutely right. It's not your fault. We're going to discuss that. But it is true. You can hate it all you want. The second one is, you don't know how to do anything. So a story. A friend of mine, he's a West Pointer then. He wants desperately to marry his girlfriend, and he is going to see her parents to ask for her hand in marriage. Now, her father is the son of an Italian immigrant. He is a full-blown Italian personality. I believe he was the model for Mario. Okay, so that's who we're talking to. And he's energetic, and he has no sense of leisure, and he's always working. So my friend goes to him, and he is about to ask him for his hand in marriage. The man is working in his backyard. He's on a step stool. He's pruning trees. He's cutting off tiny little limbs off of trees simply because they don't fit his model of trees, because he has to be doing something all the time. And my friend asks the question, can I marry your daughter? Man stops, looks at me, and says, you're here. That's the beginning of the conversation, right? A little bit of disdain there. And he says, you want to marry my daughter. Look at you. He says, you know the problem with that? You don't know anything. You don't know how to do anything. And how are you going to take care of my daughter? And he's not wrong. He's a West Pointer. He's about to get a degree. He's going to go into the Army, so he's going to have a thing to do. But he doesn't know anything about the world. And that's what he meant. And that's what we're going to talk about. Or that's what we mean when we say you don't know anything and you don't know how to do anything. So to finish the story, just so we can move on, old man never gives him an answer. He just goes back to trimming his tree, and like 5 or 6 minutes later, when my friend's standing there going, this is awkward, he looks and says, you're still here. And he says, I don't know. Have you learned how to do anything in the last 5 minutes? It's not according to what you understand. And he says, go ask your mother. Remember that, men. That will save you a lot of trouble in the future. When we talk about relationships later, we'll talk about what a wonderful thing he just did by including her in the conversation. So, in the end, mother, of course, knew he was going to come. Mother loves him. She's a fan of the boy. And they, in fact, do get married. But even on the day of their marriage, he still doesn't know anything, and he still doesn't know how to do anything because he hasn't graduated, and he hasn't learned how to operate in life. Why is that? Why did it take so long to learn how to be an adult, to operate in the world? I would offer you that. What do we do with our youth? Go ahead.
I think there needs to be enough challenges, however you want to define that, that cause you to have to make a decision that gives you a result that hopefully you've made enough mistakes that are not life-changing to the point that you live with it for the rest of your life. But you've made enough mistakes to say, well, that's not a good thing to do, and that you're starting to see that you need to listen to advice, make decisions that give you a sense of success. And whether you learn to do something right away is not necessarily going to happen. You can have lots of different jobs before you land on something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's discovery learning. We're going to get there. It's a way. I agree with the premise. You have to learn how to do things. So what's an easy way to have fun, potentially, if you're going to teach your child how to do things? Give them money and tell them to go to the store and buy groceries for the month. They will come back with groceries. But if you ask them now, okay, so show me what meals you bought for, you're probably going to get big eyes, look like a moose staring at a headlight. Right? There might be 300 bags of Doritos.
I'm still buying like this. That's not.
They'll buy something.
Really?
They'll buy everything. So, buy a lot of TV dinners maybe? Because they don't know anything, and they don't know how to do anything. Did they do anything to the left of going to the store and buying that food? Did they do any thought? Did they do any planning? Did they do any consideration? No. They did exactly what you told them, right? They went to the store and bought food.
It depends on how they're raised.
Maybe.
It depends on how their parents do things, too. Because if their parents are very detail-oriented and they do that, we talked about that last time.
I don't know. Most detail-oriented parents I know, Their children purposefully don't do details. Unless it's for their mother. Because I'm assuming here it's the mom who's detail-oriented, because most men aren't. And then whenever the child is doing something for the mother, they'll be detail-oriented. In every other aspect of their life, they will freewheel it in silent rebellion. Am I wrong?
No, it's true, but what I was trying to say is that if you are teaching your children how to do that, they might do a better job. You know, they see you sitting down writing on a list and a plan. They might do that. They may not.
All right, so parenting is active?
Parenting is definitely.
Okay. I appreciate you talking about yourself while I'm talking about teenagers. I'm kidding. Because we're going to get to that conversation here in a couple of weeks when we say that parenting is rough, and it is. So, anyone disagree that school is this wonderful social experiment and you're the lab rat? I go both ways about public education or homeschooling. I can make an argument for either, and I can make an argument for neither. All depends on what you want. The problem, of course, is that we take all of the village idiots, put them in one location, and expect them to figure out all the social norms by which they're going to engage by themselves with very little interaction. And so the prisoners are very much in charge of the prison. And that's school. On top of all the other things we try to teach you, we expect you to learn all these social norms that are going to help you prepare for life. Only school is nothing like life. Is it? Huh? Right? Very much dog eat dog. The weak are taken over by the older. So, the problem is that everything is new to you because you are so new. Every single one of us is unique, right? You guys can go home every night and pray there won't be another rape bullet in your life. One is enough. But it's the same for each and every one of us. And we're self-centered. I don't mean that self-comma or self-hyphen-centered. I mean that we are self-centered. 90% of your conversation that you have your entire life goes on inside your own head, and no one else is involved. Most of the major decision-making you make in your life, you will presuppose in your head, and then you will go seek confirmation. You're not really asking people to help, especially if you're a teenager. You're not there yet. You're not asking for help. You just want someone to confirm the crazy you're about to do is smart, and then you want to go do your crazy. I don't know why that is, but I think it's true. And so when you're a teenager and you're trying to learn everything because you spend more time in your head than anywhere else, you tend to have an understanding of things this way. Boundaries are bad, and experiences are good. Don't tell me what I can and can't do. I need to go do everything. And you rush toward it. And then you wonder why it's painful. And so that is discovery learning. I'm still looking for the one person or one individual who's good at discovery learning. For most of us, discovery learning is why we don't dive into empty pools. And then you end up in the hospital. And you wonder how you got hurt in the first place, because the idea briefed so well. So, if you're going to do this, and chances are you are, you can deny it all you want. Just a couple of rules, right? Be entertained by fads, but don't participate. If you have eaten a Tide Pod, my heart goes out for you. But that's just the most extreme stupid. How many other dumb things are there to do on the internet on any given day? Yes, that's right. The answer is yes. So, don't decrease your life expectancy. Understand what the things are in the world that people are doing and why, and then maybe you don't have to make their mistakes. Everything on the internet is about self. I don't care what you post or why or how you internally justify that. Everything put on the internet is about self. So, ask yourself why you need that kind of gratification. And then be careful with it. So, second one, your point, discovery learning. The person who can learn from another's mistake is rare. If you meet him or her, Hang out with them. But don't be the one they watch do discovery learning. Know your role. Ride alongside them and just observe what they observe and ask them questions. Because the thought processes required in order to learn from someone else's mistakes are usually mature and well developed. And I have met young people who had it. It was amazing. I have met old people who had it. They were amazing. And then there's the entire rest of the population, which is us, who tend to do discovery learning. Because you don't have to. You choose to. So we've talked about those set of words here a few minutes ago. Everyone's journey is about self. Know that and accept that. It doesn't make you special. It doesn't make you bad. Our journey is about self. Self-discovery, self-exploration, self-growth, all of those things. Your journey is about you. It's absolutely true. But what it doesn't have to be is the painful way. You have friends. Teenagers, you have friends. Your friends are not your friends. Does all that make sense? It will in a minute when we talk about who's in your car. That's why we're given people in our lives to help guide the way. But it's a very tough thing for a young person to accept, is mentorship and all of those things that go along with it. And I don't know why, but we seem to pick the wrong people to travel with. And it's got to be about criteria. How do we pick our friends? And who do we pick? And why? So, in the game of life, if you do that, well, before we go on to this, any other comments, questions, observations about being a teenager? Hold on, we'll go here first, because you already had one. You were raising your hand for her? Not you, him.
Okay,
Hi,
hi.
I'm Hans. I'm a former teenager.
Yes.
Welcome.
If I had a better definition of what the word friend meant and truly was, then I would make fewer mistakes. Because and I'll be honest, it took me well into my 30s to understand that a friend is someone you trust your family with.
So did you all hear all that? So what Hans said was he had a very bad definition of friends when he was younger, and it helped him get into a lot of trouble. And it took him a while to recover. The definition that he now has for a friend is someone with whom he would trust his own family. Good definition of a friend?
I was thinking of your observations about self-discovery learning and thinking that really describes Solomon on a grand scale
Maybe.
in a lot of ways.
Solomon had a gift that I cannot imagine. All of the wisdom that God can put in a human head. I think Solomon's failing was that it was a gift. Most people value what they earn. And the more blood, sweat, and tears we pour into a thing, the more we seem to value it. That's why our families are treasures. We fight for them. Every day we fight for them. And so Solomon took this gift of knowledge, and he was at least smart enough to put it down. So we have Ecclesiastes and Proverbs and a lot of other things. But he didn't adhere to it later on in life.
Well, that's true. I mean, you discover things, but you don't necessarily have to use them.
Well, you said a while ago about the internet, it's all self-centered. And lots of times, people that you're attracted to are very self-centered. And then it becomes a battle between what do you have to offer that person and what is that person really offering you.
You're stealing some of my slides.
And that's, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely right, though. We'll talk about that in the teenager context right now, I think.
Well, and that's very true of, I'm a former teenager a long time ago, but that's very true because you tend to pick people that are faster, jump higher, smarter, to hang around. And you have to have something to offer them before they're even going to allow you to hang around. And lots of times it's something that you're not conscious of necessarily.
Right. And so I hate to break relationships down, but most are transactional in some form. In a lot of cases, that's perfectly okay. In some cases, it's not. Our job is to discern the difference. Yes, ma'am.
I think when we are talking about teenagers, our children, and friendship, we cannot act like friends to our children. Our responsibility is much stronger. So we are parents. If they need to be punished, they should be punished. I don't think to kill them or something. It is a different way how you do this.
You hearing that? Vesna said she's not your friend, but she is an adult and she will take it to you. No, I'm kidding. That's not what you said, but...
So it is very important that parents understand that children cannot see stuff like you see. From my
Yes.
experience, and I have enough years on my head, I know parents who are demanding to their children raise better people. They have better success in the school, better success on the job. If you just let children to do what they want, they become not good people because they are doing whatever they want, and that's not life. Second,
Wow, there's a second point.
yes, sorry, and then I'll finish. If we will just choose people to be our friends that are not good friends, what will happen with people who are not good? We should have all kinds of the friends, but we should know where is our, how you say this in English, what we can do or what we cannot do. We have to have good influence on people who are not good. Not that they do the opposite, that they had bad influence of us. And this is something that we should learn in our families. I sometimes, when my son was young, I was talking about drugs and everything. And he said, first you give me like $5 when he was going out, and you expect that I take drugs for these $5? And then second, he said, if everyone around me could do whatever they want, I know what I cannot do. And this is what we have to learn our children. I'm finished. Okay.
Okay, so let me go back to if I can remember the first point. And I'm going to ask you to bring it up again when we talk about parenting, because that's something that happens in the game of life. I agree. I was never a friend to my children. I was always the parent. However, we have a friendship, so they're not mutually exclusive, but my role was always parent. I was always caregiver, provider, Lord, and overseer. All of those roles of a parent that make a complete parent. And we have to be careful with that, because teenagers are the years in which they push back on that, right? We had a slide about boundaries and all that stuff. So, if you're a young person and you find yourself frequently argumentative with your parents, know that it's you. It is you. Is there a single every one of us have been a teenager at one point. Is that incorrect? All right, so the question is, why can't you see it? Because you're in your head too much. You think about you way more often than anyone else in the world. And you think the rest of us think about you as much as you do, and we don't. I don't have time for you because I'm busy thinking about me, right? So get out of your head. It's not about you. And know the people you're arguing with. And know what's at stake. Second point was don't do drugs, right? No, I'm kidding. All that, don't shoot your friends to that. It's very bad. What is your criteria for a friend? And we are actually getting ahead of the slides a little bit on this. So think about that for a minute. We're going to have a sidebar discussion with the slides, and then we're going to get back to that topic. Because it might be the most important decision, second most important decision you make in your life. Your first is to become a Christian, always. But if you don't know how to choose friends, in quotes, meaning, spouse, actual friends, people you do and don't associate with, if you don't have criteria for selection, you'll select anyone. So, in the game of life, we move on the board in our car. So the question for us, I think, as we exit our teen years and get into our adult years and stare at that first major life decision, which is what am I going to do? Who's in your car? Who is going on this ride with you you call your life? Every person has a car. Who's in it? And so who's walking down your life's journey with you? So 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. So I think that there are caveats to what you say. I understand what you mean. We're supposed to be out there in the world and not of the world. But I am not going to have some of the friends I associated with in my youth as friends now. Hells no. They were bad people, absolutely bad people, and every one of them is in jail because they earned it. And I was there with them, and I wasn't good until I left. I don't know that I'm good now, but I'm better, and I'm not going back. Those are corrupters of men's souls, and I will not associate. They don't want to change, and they don't want to be changed. Once we both understood that, I was free to exit the relationship. Okay.
You know, he was raised in Las Vegas. I mean, you do not have this kind of the friends.
You don't see, when you say though you got to be friends with kind of, that's who I think about. I think about the worst experiences of my life, which are probably on the extreme side of bad for most people.
I do not know this kind of the people.
Yeah.
So I don't know how
You're blessed. You're blessed.
Also raised in Las Vegas, let's not forget. And
Yeah, it's not everybody in Las Vegas. Denise is from Las Vegas. At least one good thing has come from Las Vegas.
let's not make Las Vegas all negative now.
just
Although in my defense, she knows all of these people. So how big is Las Vegas? Not very. Not when we were little. So where do you think you are? Who's driving your car? If I ask who's the boss of you, to most people in the world, what would they say? I'm the boss of me. I got me. Are you? That's right. Call Monty. So, most people would say they're there, right? Are you? Are you the boss of your life? Should you be?
So, given enough time, I mean, I almost don't like using the term Christ is supposed to be the one in our lives that's driving. And I don't like to use that terminology because I think it's kind of overused and abused. However, if we're going to use the analogy, the fact is not that your hands aren't on a steering wheel, but that you listen to Christ and you follow him. He is therefore the first and foremost driver.
Right. So you jumped one slide ahead of me.
Sorry.
No, it's quite all right. Means you're paying attention to the material. Gold star for Hans. So most people will say, well, I'm in the passenger seat. Jesus, take the wheel. I don't even think you're the navigator. A navigator has responsibilities. If I give full control of my life over to Christ, I move to the back seat of a station wagon. That's right, because that is a station wagon. Does anyone else remember cars with seats in the back that face the back? So you could wave at the guy behind you and distract him? It was wonderful. So I think you go in the back seat. Very back. Whichever seat you choose as least valued in the vehicle is yours. Likewise in your life. Because we're supposed to be last. I know I am doing right by Christ if I am last in all of the things I consider when I expend any and all resources. And that's just the way I say it. So, if I'm there, then who's there? Now, Hans has offered up Jesus. Most people would say Jesus is their co-pilot, which I despise. Who's the most ignored guy in the car? The co-pilot. I only want information from you when I demand it. It better come quick. Left or right turn. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And then I ignore you again. And don't you touch the radio. So those are the rules of being navigator, right? You get no control over the vehicle, no control over what's going on in it. Don't you touch that thermostat. And so, don't touch what? We're having a 35-year sidebar conversation here that's been going on that long, huh? About who's where in the car. Same is true in your life. Who pilots your vehicle? Now, I offer, like Hans, that it should be Christ. But that's a easy thing to say and a difficult task to master. Because the hardest thing for someone who is inside themselves, more often than not, the hardest thing to give up is control. Now,
I think God gives us the car, and it's up to us to figure out who's in control and where we're going and what we're doing.
yeah. God did give you the car. The car is your life. And what we're really asking for is who's sharing your brain space. And who is my, come alongside her to walk down my life with me? Who do I take with me on this journey? Whose journey am I being drug along on? Because it works both ways, right? Everyone in here is a car. How many people do you let in it? Where does it go? What are you doing with it? How do you operate it? So, hearing no argument to allowing Christ to be the entire front seat operator, which means that I no longer get a vote in my life, and I should be studying Scripture first before I make any and all decisions. And I know that's hard. We're not talking about every single minute decision, but please, we are most certainly talking about the important ones in your life. How you are as a person and how you react to things. So who's in the other slots? Who wants to offer up someone?
So my wife is next.
Really? You guys are amazing. All right. Survey said, number one answer on the board. I agree. Once you find that person that you are going to spend the rest of your time here with, they certainly should have some space in your brain. Rent-free. You should be thinking of them often and then letting them know. That's a secret to a relationship right there. Appreciate the people that are in it. Write that down. I'm giving it to you. This is it. You're done now. You can go away and have a happy life.
So I'll try for this to be the last comment. The other thing that goes along with that is that those of us that have taken advantage of being blessed also have been able to marry their best friend.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, I did.
I believe you. What, are you pointing at Hans because you thought you were his best friend? Oh. Right?
One of the problems that I know I've had in my life is that when you look at your spouse and your relationship with Christ, and if you even have a situation like what I've got where my spouse is not a believer, it really unbalances that entire equation. Because, for me, it's Christ first, then wife, then me. But for her, she sees that she puts me first, since God, since there's nobody else in that front seat, she puts me first, and there's some God jealousy to it that I get a chance to deal with.
Wow. Yes, I agree. I'm going to pray for you on that. I could not imagine. Well, I don't have to imagine that fight. I witnessed it in my life when I was the unbeliever and my wife was. So you could commiserate with her. I'll just pray for you. Because it is tough. We've got to be in agreement on a whole lot of things to be married. Not when you start. You don't even know the question to ask, other than, will you marry me? And so, marriage is a discovery journey that you're supposed to take together. But I think there are three people in every marriage. There's God, there's a husband, and there's a wife. And the three of them together can figure this out. Who else? Wow. You're all over it. Now, if you're a teenager, you don't have either one of those. We're not to your part yet. At least I hope not. Stay away from husbands and wives, and stay away from having kids when you're a teenager. You don't need that burden. Save it for some older people. Are your kids in your car? I don't know. Are you in your mom's car? No, you don't ever want to be anymore, huh? You want your car. It's the same for all you guys, huh? You think you have your own car right now, huh? And they do. So there's some art and science to this. Understanding someone's role in your car and how much of them is actually in their car, how much thought and time they're giving to your car. Sir,
I just, your cartoon there is missing a double axle trailer on the back.
it is.
2 and 5/16 hitch, and you got.
That doesn't come with the game of life, though.
Okay, well, it's missing some.
So something to consider when you consider the people in your car is how often are they in your car and how often are they in their car. Now, it's all a metaphor. They're always in their car. We're always thinking about ourselves. But the time you give to other people might not be equal. Not the time between the two of you that you share, but you may think of them. I think of my grown kids, maybe 10% of my time. They think of me 0% of their time. It's not an unfair relationship. It's where they're at. And so if you've got kids that are teenagers, or if you are a teenager, this is your push-away time, isn't it? Aren't you in college right now to kind of, we tell you, go out and feather your wings and grow and fly and grow up and get out and do something? And then we say, no, but not that. Yeah, that's how it works. So be mindful of each other. Have that discussion. I thought you said this was me. This was my time. Well, I meant, yeah, but not all of it. Friends. So, who was it earlier that talked about criteria for friends? Was it? Because Hans been talking.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. At least someone's interacting. So, what's our criteria for friends? Hans offered up earlier that it was someone with whom he would trust his family, accepting that that is your most valued possession.
Yes, but now there are many things to say about a true friendship, but that is one that if that's not part of it, there's no way that they can be anything more than a cohort or somebody you trust at work or something
Right.
like that. I'm just saying that that's like a very basic, very important thing for me.
And Vesna offered up a caveat to that, which is that you can have levels of friends. That's what she's talking about. Now I think we're getting into acquaintances versus friends versus, life buddy. What is a person's role when they get in your car? This you should be aware of. Uh-oh. Here we go.
I think the key word here is criteria.
Is what?
Criteria. And I'll be honest, that was not a word that was a part of my life. I never considered criteria, never thought about criteria until I married Ray. Because Ray, due to his background or whatever, Ray has always had criteria. I think most of us make the mistake of just kind of moseying through life, bouncing off of everything. Oh, you want to be my friend? Okay. Oh, you want to date me? Okay. I don't think we give a lot of thought and consideration to criteria. I mean, when you choose your spouse, of course, you have your obvious red lines. No infidelity. You cheat on me, you're out. I'm done.
I just found that out, by the way. No?
But I think that
We're renegotiating our entire marriage right here in front of you.
I think that that's one of the biggest mistakes each of us make. And I don't know if I'm the only one who just kind of moseys through like bouncing off of people. But I really do. From just watching, I think that most of us do that. We don't set criteria. We don't consider criteria. We just kind of let life happen to us. And that's not a good way to mosey through life.
Gets back to what Gene said earlier. Consider why someone wants to be your friend. Consider why you should be someone's friend. And then you're a little bit farther along in developing the type of person you want to be a friend with.
I think maybe using the word friend here is a little bit either confusing or misleading, because I think what we're really talking about is trust. Okay?
Did you guys hear that? And so, okay, so you did hear it.
There are a lot of, and you alluded to this just a minute ago, there are a lot of people that we associate with in one form or another, at one level or another. And really, I think what we're talking about is how is the trust level developing? Are we trusting the people who are trustworthy?
Yeah.
I think that's really what
No, I
we're
like that.
talking
I like that very much. And we'll reiterate it over here. So, consider how much you trust a person. And if you don't know how much you can trust someone, that in itself is a red flag, because now you've got to do something to figure out how much you can. And that means you may have to put yourself at some unnecessary risk. If you're associating with any untrustworthy person, my heart feels for you.
The problem with the conversation we have today is that we're teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know these things.
Yes, we do. I'm giving them to them.
We get but like we don't know what a good friend is. We don't know what that trust level is. We don't know.
I think we do. So, Madeline, I don't mean to point you out. You choose friends. You have friends in your life. So you have chosen them to be your friends. Have you ever thought about criteria before and why they're your friend? Yeah. Okay. One.
I think it's also different if you're raised in the church and you're taught to.
I agree. She has an advantage over 90% of the population because she's raised in a Christian household.
And
So criteria, I think one of the things that, you start out with, or should start out with, is shared values in terms of things like trust. Because, I'm a trustworthy guy, and so if somebody shares my values and is a lot like me, you're going to gravitate more towards that trust because, they share your values and they're not going to abuse your trust.
I will offer the exact opposite, but I will validate your point. So when I was a burgeoning career criminal, one of my criteria were that you be absolutely untrustworthy. I had to know that you would betray me so that we could commit crimes together, because what would keep us from telling on each other was mutually assured destruction. I would go to jail if you went to jail. If you went to jail, I knew there was going to be a knock on my door because you would rat me out. But it sounds counterintuitive to you people who have souls and you have trust in your lives. It bound us together because nobody could rat on each other, because the violence that would be, inflicted on us, because we all knew we were untrustworthy, was going to be horrible. And it kept us from breaking apart as a cohort of people who commit crimes together.
so I think that term
So yes, I validate your point, but beware of the opposite.
I think that term is poetically honor amongst thieves. But having said that, thank the Lord that those of us have quite nearly ruined our lives, and because of being brought out of that, breaking out, I was raised in the Church of Christ, I'll just say church, but I broke out, and I did not believe that all that was painful. But my point is that God, Christ, the redemption is what He uses those experiences like Paul to be able to speak with other people so that they understand that on the other side of Christ is death. And so we are able to take those awful, awful experiences. That's why I was talking about that double axle trailer. That's the stuff I only reach back to grab when I need to try to talk somebody about Christ. I leave them out in the car, but you've got to keep it with you.
Right? So the most heavily discussed point in this entire morning has been about criteria. So that should tell you, young people, how important it is. We see the value as adults. We're looking back toward you. And I know that you can't see it now, because no 20-year-old or 15-year-old imagines being 40. That's ancient. But it'll happen for you, and it'll happen to you. We're offering some information that we would hope you would take as advice.
Well, in one way, I think this conversation is going in one direction, that what is it is that we are Christian, that we should help people. People who are like we are, people who have clear criteria in their life, usually do not need help. But what is it with people who, I had friends that people went then here, this is your friend, they could not believe because we are in the opposite sides. But I learned something from that friend, and I think I have good.
Well, I think we're talking about two separate things. I'm not talking about somebody who just believes different things than you. And neither are you. The people you have as friends that you think we're not talking about, we are, I think. You just misunderstand it. Now, we're going to have a conversation about that exact topic, though, about 6 weeks from now.
Okay.
So hold on to that, because that's a stage in life, right? When do we expand our horizons as Christians and get after some things that might make us uncomfortable. But we've got to continue on this conversation. We've only got a few more minutes. So, how about that one? This gets after what you're talking about. If I'm making Christians, I have to be out there amongst people who are not.
Yeah.
I think it's a requirement.
I think
And I need to put them in my car and take them with me.
your criteria of friends should all be the same. You should love everyone, as Christ said, love yourself.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't, with the criteria of people saying they're friends, you should be doing everything for all of your friends, whether it's taking a ride at 2 o'clock in the morning or baking a cake for the neighbor that someone passed away. You should be doing that with all of your friends. That's a friend.
I agree. I would change the word friend to acquaintance. I should do it for anyone.
That's a friend.
Yeah. What I'm talking about now is the people I allow specifically into my inside circle and do that. So yes, I agree. I think we're just saying it differently. You're not wrong. You are.
The example is Jesus, right? Jesus had a circle of disciples who were close to him. He had an inner circle of 3 or 4 that were.
Oh, does he? Oh, you hold that one. Hold that. We're going to burn through 3 slides, and then we're going to discuss that. So, one more question to ask you. Is your car a +1? Now, a +1 is a vehicle that always fits one more person. If your life is a +1, you will have problems. You can only have so many, and we're talking about inner circle here, not all friends, not all acquaintances. You can only have a certain size circle of trust. I will challenge anyone. If you think not, you come see me, I will prove it. You can only emotionally support so many things at once. Pick them and support them. Go all in. But if you spread yourself like too little butter over too much bread and get nothing done and get frustrated in your life, I hold you accountable for that. So be careful. Don't let your life be a +1. Who pays for the gas? Everyone's life runs on fuel. You think so? I've charged people rent in my car. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to point out the verse in Proverbs that says the righteous choose their friends too, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. So
Right. It's the same as 1 Corinthians 33, where
but it also
bad people can corrupt good people.
whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done. And he still expects a certain standard of behavior in the world with kindness and love, but he calls you to choose your friends carefully.
Difference between friends and acquaintances. Again, like that's what exactly.
And it's only natural that in English we trip over this topic. There are languages out there in the world where the words for each of these types of relationships are distinct, and they are so nuanced that there would be no confusion. But we confuse friend, acquaintance, knowing a person, not knowing a person. It's just the language we're born with. So, know also then that it can change throughout your life. So, back to your part. So, what you're talking about is the ride or die club. I'm with you. I'm always there. I'm with you forever, right? Jesus had a ride or die club. Be careful with these people is the last lesson of the morning. Okay, so, because what happens in Gethsemane? That's right. The priests and the cops show up, and what do the disciples do? Yes, they beat feet out of there, right? Like it's nobody's business. Fear for their own lives forces them to sacrifice this relationship temporarily and flee. That is what fear does to people. Right. So everyone will tell you they're in your ride and die club. Right up until they're not. 2 things. It's okay to actually look at them and say, well, you're probably not. It's okay. It's honest. Second is don't believe them. If you ever find yourself in a position where you need your ride or die club, you should not have been in that position in the first place, is my statement to you. So be careful with that. Now, I'll place those verses up there again if you didn't get a chance to write them down when we first got here. Enjoy youth. There's no other time like it. Your body responds so well to all the things you demand of it. Your energy seems limitless and boundless. You can take in new information into that, this wet computer we call a brain, and it just absorbs things, and there's so much to learn and know and be and do. But be deliberate about the parts of it that are going to impact the rest of your lives. And as a Christian, or as a person who one day may be a Christian, we need to understand that that is choosing who our life belongs to, and then choosing those people we are going to come along that path with. It doesn't mean we're not ever going to not help others or any of that stuff, but the people who are in our vehicle help determine where it goes. So the last joke in the morning. What's the most commonly asked question from the back of the car? Are we there yet? And what's the most common answer?
2 more weeks.
2 more weeks. That's funny. No, soon. So let that be your life. Don't be impatient with the Lord. And when you ask him when and where we're going to get where I think I need to be, and he says soon, let it be soon. And you keep doing your part. Okay? All right. We're 4 minutes over. I apologize. Thank you for your time.